Okay, so you've dreamed of writing a novel. You've got the story in your head, but when you sit down to write, you just find yourself staring at that blinking cursor. If that sounds familiar, then this is for you. We are going to break down the whole process, demystify all those roadblocks, and give you a real, actionable plan to finally get that story out of your head and onto the page. Let's do this. Let's turn that blinking cursor into your first chapter. This right here, this is probably the single most liberating idea you need to embrace as a writer. This quote from Jodi Picoult, it's not just some nice saying, it's permission. It's giving you permission to be imperfect, to write a clunky sentence, to just get something, anything, down on the page, because once words exist, you can fix them. But a blank page, it gives you absolutely nothing to work with. This is your key. This is how you start. So what is it that causes that blank page paralysis? You know, we all have a name for it, writer's block. But what if I told you it's a myth? I'm not kidding. Best-selling author Jerry Jenkins, a guy who's written nearly 200 books, argues that writer's block isn't a real condition. He says it's just a cover for something else. And the logic he uses is actually pretty simple, but it's really powerful. Jenkins asks this question: can you imagine calling in sick to your job and saying you have worker's block, right? You'd be laughed out of the building. Plumbers don't get plumber's block. Surgeons don't get surgeon's block. So why should writers be the only ones who get a special pass? When you frame it like that, you start to see it less like a mysterious disease and more like an excuse we tell ourselves when things get tough. All right, so if writer's block isn't real, what are we actually dealing with? Well, that stuck feeling is usually just a symptom of four very real and very conquerable problems that we need to face head on. And here they are. Meet your four true adversaries: fear, procrastination, perfectionism, and distractions. Now, the good news is that once you figure out which one of these, or maybe which combination, is holding you hostage, you can start using some real strategies to fight back and get those words flowing again. Let's start with the big one, fear. The fear that you're not good enough, that your idea isn't original, that no one will ever read it. The powerful idea here is to stop trying to fight the fear. Instead, embrace it. Acknowledge that, yeah, writing a book is a scary and difficult thing to do. Let that fear humble you, because that humility is actually what's going to motivate you to do the hard work you need to do to succeed. You know, best-selling author Dean Koontz, we're talking over 450 million books sold. He puts it perfectly. He says the best writing comes from knowing you're not perfect, from being aware of your limitations, because that's what makes you strain and push to be better. So that feeling of inadequacy, it's not a stop sign. It's actually a sign that you care. It's the engine, not the brake. Now let's talk about perfectionism. See, perfectionism is all about timing. When you're writing that first draft, it's a thief. It cripples you. It makes you obsess over every single word, and it just grinds your progress to a complete halt. But once that draft is done, then it becomes your most powerful tool. That's when you unleash it during editing. So your job right now is to lock perfectionism in a box while you're creating, and only let it out when it's time to polish. Okay, so we've worked on the mental game. Now let's get down to the practical stuff. The absolute foundation of any great story doesn't start with a clever plot, it starts with your main character. But wait, before you even think about your character, you have to know your why. Why are you writing this specific book? This is the fuel that's going to power you through the hard parts. And trust me, there will be hard parts. So figure it out. Are you trying to share a message, explore a question, just prove to yourself you can do it? Whatever it is, write it down. Put it on a sticky note on your monitor. It's your anchor. Now, you've probably got a bunch of ideas floating around in your head, but here's the thing. Not every idea is a novel-worthy idea. A novel needs enough meat on its bones, enough potential for conflict, for character growth, to sustain, 80,000 words or more. The best advice is to pick the one idea that not only excites you, but also scares you, just a little bit. That's usually the one that has real potential. Okay, you've got your why and you've got your idea. Now it's time to build your character. And the key takeaway here is this. You need to know your character inside and out before you even think about writing chapter 1. What are their fears, their secrets? What do they want more than anything in the world? This deep, deep understanding is what makes a character feel real, and that's what makes for a page-turning story. And out of all the questions you can ask about your character, this one is the most critical. What happens if they fail? The answer to that question defines the stakes of your entire novel. If the consequences aren't dire, truly, deeply, life-altering for your character, then the reader just won't care. Your story won't have the tension it needs to keep people reading. So you've beaten back your inner demons, you know your character like the back of your hand. Now it's time to actually write. And we're talking about the opening. Literary agents, editors, even regular readers, they often decide if they're interested within the very first page. Sometimes even the first sentence. This is your first battle, and it's the most important one. And nobody says it better than Stephen King. Your opening line isn't just the beginning of a story. It's a direct invitation. It's you as the author leaning forward and whispering to the reader, hey, listen, come in here. You really want to know about this. It has to spark immediate curiosity. So what does that perfect invitation look like? Well, a really great opening chapter does these 4 things. It hooks you with a question or a mystery. It introduces you to an interesting character. It gives you a sense of what's at risk, and it sets the whole tone and mood for the book. You don't have to give everything away, of course, but you have to make a promise to the reader about what's coming. Here is a masterclass in how to do it. The first part of that sentence is totally normal, right? It was a bright, cold day in April. We can all picture that. But then George Orwell adds 5 little words, and the clocks were striking 13. And bam, suddenly the world is wrong. Something is off. We are immediately filled with questions, and we just have to keep reading to find out why. Okay, we've gone through the mindset, the character work, the craft of a great opening, but honestly, none of that matters without the single most powerful tool for finishing a novel, the habit. This is how you stop dreaming and start doing. This is how you turn your intention into a finished manuscript. So what's the secret? What is this magical formula that so many best-selling authors swear by? Well, it all comes down to this one simple, beautiful number, 1. It's author John Grisham's advice. Write 1 page every single day. That's it. Look, some days it's going to feel easy. Most days it's going to feel hard. Some days the writing will feel like magic, and other days it'll be absolute garbage. It doesn't matter. The point is consistency. You show up, you do the work, you write the page. That, my friends, is how novels get finished. And this brings us right back to where we started. This quote from Margaret Atwood is everything. It's the reminder that the goal of a first draft is not to be perfect. The goal is just to be done. It's about getting the story out of you, filling those blank pages with messy, imperfect words if you have to, knowing that you can always make them better later. So, the myth of writer's block, it's broken. The path forward is clear. It's built on a strong character, a compelling hook, and a simple, powerful daily habit. All the tools are right here. The only thing separating a someday writer from an author is action. The most powerful stories are always the ones that are still waiting to be told. The only real question left is, what's yours?